This is the EGC 20K Age of Empires 4 tournament. We are here to witness the final 16 generals in battle. Let a new war begin. Hello, put your weapons down, you won't need it here. My name's Anuki, you can slay me at the end of this program. Introducing our generals commanding the French, currently undefeated breaker of games, General Hera. Their settlement is located in the north. Their opponent, the strong, the merciless, savior of the Rus, Sora Kuma, situating their settlement in the south. No doubt our two commanders are going to soak the ground with the life force of young soldiers led into war, all so that we may enjoy the miracle of real-time strategy computer games. The rules are simple. It's a best of 3. If you win with a civilization, you may not choose that civilization again. This is the first match, so it's a free choice. Let's do ourselves a civilization breakdown and get the French out of the way first, as they are the most popular. The French have extra villager production, a bonus 5% for every age they reach. Dry Arabia is also a pretty good map for trading, so perhaps the trade bonuses will come in handy if the battle goes on past 20 to 30 minutes mark, but it's still useful even before then, depending on how our commanders interact with each other today. But all that pales in comparison to the Royal Knights that the French get. They get access to a chivalry upgrade, which allows them to self-heal, whilst also just flat out being tough, high armored, high damage, but at a high cost. Some might say not high enough. As for the Rus, though, not as popular, and great to see them out today. Sora Kuma getting some underdog fans. The Rus have an interesting early game. They need to seek out virtual animals for virtual currency. Killing sheep, deer, wolves, and boar earns bounty coins, which grant extra harvesting rate and more gold from hunting cabins. Both the French and Rus can get knights out in Age 2, so we'll see how that goes. The Rus knights won't self-heal, though. One of the amazing things about Rus, though, is their palisade walls. They are much tougher than ordinary wooden walls other civilizations have, and I have seen them used to great effect among high-performing Rus players, even when there are no choke points. So that's a rough breakdown. Of course, there's just so much packed into these civilizations, and it isn't quite the place to run through it all. The first thing that will likely happen is Sora Kuma is going to hunt for animals, find out where they are, discover the locations, and Hera will try to do the exact same thing to deny that. Both commanders have explored roughly half the map already. In the west, there was a double deer spot. We already saw that Sora Kuma was making the scout attack faster than normal. Now, when you move the scout, it resets their attack. It's a simple trick, and one that is currently tolerated in this tournament of champions. Speaking of real champions, though, the tournament organizers, the Elite Gaming Channel, have worked very hard to bring this Age of Empires 4 tournament to fruition, and it's the first one ever for this game. So if you would like to hear more about competitive Age of Empires 4 play, then check out their Discord. The link will be provided to you in the YouTube video description. However, if you are watching on Twitch right now, then, well, don't be afraid to ask. We'll get that link to you. Now then, Hera has the School of Cavalry that functions as a stables so that they can get the chivalry upgrade pretty quickly along with the Royal Knights. The key is all about speed with France. They want to attack with Royal Knights, with chivalry, as fast as possible. I noticed that there's too many villagers on this one sheep. One villager was just kind of waiting for a space to free up. So they are going to get reassigned. Sora Kuma also went very traditional with their landmark choice, the Golden Gate. It every minute you can swap 100 gold for 150 of any other resource. This rate does not change like a normal marketplace. The alternative choice would have been the Kremlin, which is just a small wooden keep, a defensive landmark, which we don't see all too much. Something that will be very helpful is that the Rus gain 20% more wood from their lumber camps when a wooden fort is built near them. Spearmen have proven to be a necessary component when dealing with France, so more wood, more spears. Same for walls, really, but I'm not sure we'll see many walls on Arabia. It's just incredibly open. Wooden forts also house 8 people instead of 5, like normal outposts. So more villagers can fit in there and be safe. And quite often we see when the French Royal Knights raid and you have 5 villagers climb into an outpost and then there's just like Gary left out there alone. I'm just like, ah! And poor Gary gets slaughtered. That doesn't happen with the Rus because there's just more room at the inn. There's a Royal Knight out, spears. Here, 2 villagers undecided as to what they want to do. The spears will chase the Royal Knight away, and there's a town center going down for Sora Kuma. Right next to the gold and stone on the opposite side of the map, there's some scout harass on Hera's gold line. So as I was previously saying, there's a lot of good for Rus against France, and I'm actually kind of surprised to see that England is a more popular choice, especially when players are looking for counters to France, because the way that people are playing England into France is very much just playing England regardless of who they're fighting. Whereas Rus actually seems to bring some valid civilization perks and traits to the table. So with this second town center down, there's even more room for villagers to hide in, as immediately demonstrating how useful this is for mining that gold safely. This means Hera is going to have considerations for this game being prolonged further than kind of France wants the games to be. France wants games to end in the feudal age, but this, by the way that it is looking so far, will go into the castle age. The Royal Knights are slowly building up, and there's not too many spearmen out at the moment, but there doesn't need to be. Right now, the priority for Sora Kuma is, I mean, the gold workers are safe because they've got a town center, and the spearmen just want to focus their defense around the woodcutters. They've got a wooden fort that they can go into. You can see the spearmen line up and deny entry to the knights, but one comes and sneaks in from the other side, and the spearmen haven't quite noticed yet. They're stuck on stand ground. And because of that, little Susie, the woodcutter, lost their life. I like how there was a single spearman that was sent over there to defend. Anyway, we got many mills out here to the very west side of Arabia, harvesting the deer. That's going to be a nice food boost. The spearmen are equal in number to the Royal Knights now, and that could be fairly problematic. Sora Kuma is going to have to utilize that wooden fortress if they really want to be able to fight against 5 Royal Knights. Spears may be the hard counter, but Royal Knights are just very tough. People are often quoting the ratio is 3 spears for every 1 Royal Knight. Very much an approximation as the Royal Knights are staring at the town center. Yeah, come on, villagers. Mine that gold. See what we do about it. Not much, but they posture. It's just kind of psyching them out. But to complete the point I was making, as a general rule of thumb, there are exceptions, terms, and conditions all involved in this. If you have 3 spears for every 1 knight, you're going to be okay. And while Sora Kuma looks like they're doing okay at the moment, I do think they need to have a bit more of an emphasis for dealing with these Royal Knights. They still have the 5 spears out, and they do have 3 knights out. Maybe they're going to go on a raid on themselves. And I like what Hera is doing here, but I thought what was going to happen is they lure the spearmen away and then bring in the Royal Knights from the other side to collect the villagers. That didn't happen though. The Royal Knights are actually up here with the scout, looking perhaps for an alternative angle of attack. And if they discover this hunting cabin down here, that would be a lucrative business. But the villagers can just hop inside that wooden fort. It just depends whether they are paying attention at the time the knights are being shut down. They want to kill the scout. Certainly taking out the scout would help stop or reduce the chance of the southern hunting cabin being spotted. But they're not going to get it. And they're being chased all the way back to Sora Kuma's settlement. And I'm so fond of the word settlement. It always makes me think of the settlers, which I'm not even sure if that was my first RTS. Was it Populous? It wasn't Seven Kingdoms. But I do miss the settlers. If you played the settlers, then why not give me a thumbs up on this video? And if you didn't play the settlers, then in fairness, hit the thumb down. That seems like the best use of the like buttons that I can think of. Interesting that the spears are going to head out. I mean, just by numbers alone, this isn't a large enough force to compete against what Hera has on the field. Oh, and I felt very olden day then. I almost felt like a dwarf. Sora Kuma's come out to play. Even the spears are charging. Anyway, bunch of raiding going on. Interesting, double interesting. Hera has reached the castle age very quickly. This is 11 minutes in. Not only did they get their castle age, but they've gathered a much more formidable force compared to Sora Kuma. The spears, undecided as to what they want to do, don't really have much of a choice but to die by the hands of the Royal Knights. The Roos Knights, try as they might, again, they're not sufficient enough, and all the villagers in the southern Happy Holidays hunting cabin are gonna want a refund. Sora Kuma's starting to get some farms going. They're certainly gonna need to secure a source of food for what's to come. 2 nights near the double mills, but all of the deer have already been harvested from there. More knights riding their way in to go raid the French villagers, and we have a very ideal spot to raid. The gold mine to the very north of Hera's village. In the south, the wooden fort is burning. A single villager is inside, panicking. Spears will come to the rescue. The knights, though, they ain't cowards. They're gonna get that fire lit before they'd consider to split. Happy with the results, they will move away. As for the Roos Knights, the villagers showing just as much bravery as the knights. Sora Kuma does have other red knights close to Hera's gold, so maybe this is just the distraction, a bit of eye candy for Hera. They're slightly inactive. There they go. They're marching on now. The spears heading home. They can see that a load of royal knights are on their way. And there's not much of a defensive garrison, so they'll definitely need those spears. But these 2 poor Rus soldiers, many lancers pointed at their tushies, but maybe when these spears swing around the forest, nope, Hera's gonna cancel the attack. Sora Kuma's economy is doing well. Plenty of villagers on food. Wood is looking a little short, but they can easily sustain 2 barracks producing spears for now. Judging by the gold they have and the villagers allocated to food, they'd like to get to the castle age quickly. So whilst they try to stockpile resources, they'll try small guerrilla warfare tactics and keep their opponent distracted, or at least try to. Hera is well versed in the arts of multitasking. Some French villagers getting cleaved. Looks like the deer has almost been fully guzzled down by Hera's common folk here, so they'll have to move on shortly. The large group of Royal Knights keep charging forwards and backwards towards and away this town center. And there's Springalds arriving. Oh, this is very cruel, Hera. They're gonna use these things to snipe the villagers. No doubt about it. I think we can only be thankful that there aren't more twisted machines for Hera to use against these poor peasants. And I'm thinking this is what Hera had planned all along. Was this an opening game trick? Because everyone assumes France is going to power play the feudal age with knights and archers. But Hera skipped out on the archers and has brought, I guess, a superior archer. You know, this would be the RoboCop of 1100 AD when an archer is severely wounded in battle, but then are rebuilt as a ballista. Now Sora Kuma will have a bunch of idle villagers cowering inside of the town center at risk of taking a giant bolt to each eye socket. The Red Army won't be spared either. A spearman now tasked with fertilizing the grain. The Springald, totally a weapon of fear at the moment. Sora Kuma's morale must be quite low. Their villagers not able to do much of a job. My recommendation, go to YouTube, search Command & Conquer Red Alert 2 Hell's March, and then just go to town on Hera. Losing is quite simply not possible with some badass music on. What is Sora Kuma's answer gonna be? How do they respond to this? They could just send spears straight to the Springalds. I'm not sure if Hera would like to devote their knights to fight spears. Sora Kuma sending a knight raiding party, but they gotta find some villagers around here. It looks like they've all disappeared. Two knights charge straight into the Springalds. The spearmen are gonna move forward, and Hera, yeah, they're not eager to fight it. The spears divide into two groups. One of them will attack the Springalds, whilst the other holds off the knights. They're doing an amazing job. There's one knight in the back attacking a solo Springald too. Hera losing a significant amount of Royal Knights there. Plenty of spearmen left. And the Springalds, they're not cheap either. So, Sora Kuma, rather than going to the Castle Age, devoted resource to getting more spears. They moved them straight across the battlefield. The French Royal Knights moved out of the way. It was almost like Hera was bluffing. They relied on how scary their army looked, and Sora Kuma just went for it. Without those archers to take down the spears, the knights didn't look that strong whatsoever. Now, in a turn of events, we've got spears which are just going to run down and torch buildings. Now Sora Kuma might have the time to get those resources to go up to the Castle Age. They've got over 55 villagers, a lot on food and gold. And for the time being, it doesn't look like Hera can really fight this army with just knights alone. They need to bring something else. The Guild Hall has an awesome force field. None of the torches are hitting. Nonetheless, damage is still being dealt. Hera might instead opt to fight where the spears are not. If Sora Kuma's army is here, then who is defending their villagers? This is assuredly different. Don't often see spearmen alone burning down a landmark. Oh, Sora Kuma collecting a boar and have enough resources for the Abbey of Trinity landmark. For now, though, Royal Knights pretty peeved off at the moment, so they're looking to inflict some destruction of their own. But the town center that they've so often retreated from already still makes a great hibernation spot for the villagers. The army that was there, they have lost, yes. And the villagers in the Abbey of Trinity trying to do some hard work are next on the kill list. But even though this looks devastating, do bear in mind that Hera lost an entire division of Royal Knights that was extremely costly. The Abbey of Trinity crumbles to dust. Hera is really putting the payback here. They are out with a vengeance, and the villagers are going to be losing, well, a bunch of their friends. Some of them even family. The Abbey of Trinity instead going to be built in the bottom left corner. This is a very disruptive invasion. Workers aren't able to work. Other workers have migrated to less safe lands. The spearmen chasing off 5 Royal Knights to the east side of the settlement. The Roost Knights return home with fiends on their tail, and the Abbey of Trinity threatened yet again. At least there was some advanced warning, but Sora Kuma sending spearmen over. Only 5. A 5v5. The Knights will win that one if they choose to engage. Seems like they will scare them away. A bundle of spearmen back at the village. And I'm surprised at how much Sora Kuma has been able to do with mostly spears, almost trapping 2 knights on the retreat there. They've also been fairly active with their knights, trying to harass. But there's so much going on, it's difficult to really capture accurately just how effective they truly have been. This hunting cabin in the very north, these villagers are going to go on villager warfare! As the Abbey of Trinity is completed, welcoming Sora Kuma into the Castle Age. Now they should have a bunch of upgrades that they need to catch up on so they can fight on equal footing against France. And the French commoners evacuate their mill. Hera must be confused by this. What? They're sending villagers now? Just how desperate is Sora Kuma? Well, they're suddenly not desperate, but I wonder if Hera will go find those red peasants and knight them, but not in the nice way. Of course, Sora Kuma now has access to siege equipment, and Hera has gathered up some local archers. What year is this? They've skipped out on the archers in the feudal age, but now they're revisiting the conventional knight-archer harmony. Archers are truly going to be a rough surprise for Sora Kuma because all of these choke points in their village, they're great against cavalry, but it's really unpleasant against archers. Archers can fire over the buildings, and it is the spearmen that then get trapped and funneled. The siege workshops will be burnt. The roof, the equipment, the stone walls, all set ablaze. And will Hera bring in some bigger tools to crack buildings from a safe distance, or try something more risky? And how is Sora Kuma going to defend? They don't have enough knights against either the archers or the French knights. We saw Sora Kuma making food purchases through the Golden Gate. Food likely means more troops, but what kind? Hera all too happy just to keep running in and out, knowing that the archers are doing chip damage to both the knights and the spearmen for the Rus. They will continue burning the buildings on the outer edges, and the town center not too concerning. The knights can tank that damage. Still some daring villagers tapping that gold. They'll lose their life for it. Was it worth it? Yeah, absolutely not. Didn't even drop off the gold. Sora Kuma's forces mobilize, and again Hera retreats, firing the archers, picking off spearmen each time this happens. And when the Rus Knights draw close, the French Knights will turn around and become a barrier. Hera committing to the fight, the order, battle to your heart's content. Hera doesn't have to issue individual commands to soldiers. They have the clear advantage. Sora Kuma wishing for the best, and the best they can do is wish. The casualties are high, and replenishing combatants in sufficient numbers could only exist in Rus dreams. They don't have the resources or the production capacity. Hera can charge in with the Knights and disrupt all the facilities that remain. The white flag is up. The Rus have been defeated. Victory goes to Hera. The two will meet again in battle. This was the first of a best of 3. There's no time to stall, so I'll just remind you all, if you're having a blast, come check out Ironcast. For now though, my name's Anuki, and I'll see you in the next round.